Hey everybody, it's Alex Morawski from In Pursuit of Purpose, and today I have Dr. Tina Johnson from High Point University here with us today. Dr. Johnson, thank you for being here.
Alex, I want to thank you for inviting me. It is an honor to have this invitation from you.
Well, thank you. I know you are in the leadership department here at High Point University,
Mhm.
but what exactly do you do here, and what is your specific title?
My specific title is I am an associate professor and I'm in the leadership studies, but I also serve as the executive director of the Siegfried Leadership Fellows. So in my full-time position, I work teaching principal candidates and superintendent candidates all about school leadership. But in my other piece of work that I do here at High Point, I get the privilege of working with undergraduates on developing their leadership skills.
Like myself.
You're a great demonstration of leadership on the undergraduate level. So I serve about 500, I think my last count was 533 students are in the fellows. So it's leadership, but different from different perspectives on the spectrum.
Yeah. Well, today's episode is all about purposeful leadership. So I think you are the perfect person to have on here for
Oh,
this episode. But to start, everybody has a definition of leadership. Would you mind sharing yours with us today?
I would love to share it. It's one that I take from Peter Northouse, which is leadership is influence. You hear several different thought leaders talking about what leadership is and it isn't. I've heard also John Maxwell also uses that same definition. And I think if you boil it down to its simplest terms, it's how you impact others towards a specific goal or a specific effort, how you influence. And hopefully, if you are a positive leader, you're making a positive impact. But that influence sometimes can be negative. So you could potentially have a negative impact with your influence. But in best case scenarios, you're using your influence to be impactful.
Now, what are some things that determine how influential a person is? Because not everybody has the same level of influence. So, what is it about those highly influential people that sets them apart from the rest?
Oh, that's such a great question. I think a leader has to have good emotional intelligence to understand how you are showing up. I think you have to have an ability to do a needs assessment on a situation, to apprise what's going on, what are the pain points, how can you be of assistance. And I think ultimately you have to know how to develop followership. You have got to
Mm.
communicate and you have got to be trustworthy so that people can understand what you're trying to do and jump on board with that effort. So I think it's several things that come together to make an effective leader.
Now, going off the topic of followership, it's really important for a leader to have followers that want to be led by you. What about a leader is something that makes followers say, I want to be led by that person? What is that
Mm.
attracting force that pulls together the followers and unites them with the leader?
Oh, that's a great question. I really believe that for any leader, your emergent followers are the ones who can either make or break you.
Mm.
And I think your early followers see something in you that there's alignment,
Mm.
either alignment in vision, goals, or they appreciate your transparency. There's got to be something about that leader that the early emergent follower says, I trust this person. I believe this person. I think this person is going to take this effort in a direction that I want to go.
Mm.
That early follower is so important because then they go back to the masses and says, "Hey, have you considered X, Y, and Z?" So there has to be some kinship, some alignment, some commonality. Most importantly, there's got to be trust. And with that trust, I think you can really accomplish much together. Without trust, you're not going to get to where you want to go.
Now, how important is it for the leader to have a good understanding of one, their personal purpose, and two, the purpose for their leadership? The reason I'm asking this question is a quote that I heard. I think it's John
Mhm,
Maxwell.
mhm,
I'm going to paraphrase, I might get a word or
mhm.
two wrong, but it said, find your why and find your way. I was listening to a TED talk and I heard the idea that followers or customers, even
Mhm.
if in organizational terms, they don't buy into a company's or a leader's what they do. They buy into why they do it. So, what is the importance of purpose in leadership? How can one develop a good purpose? And why do you lead?
Oh gosh, there's so many great questions. I do think it is important for a leader to understand what motivates and drives them intrinsically. I think it is important for all of us, whether you're a leader or not, to understand what your North Star is.
Mm,
Like, what drives you? What are you passionate about? And how can you contribute towards that passion? I think when you're a leader, you can use that to incentivize, to inspire, to motivate people. That, coupled with your competence and your communication, helps you really to be set apart to be able to lead the way. A leader is really
mm,
about leading the way. The leader does just as much, effective leaders do just as much work, if not more, than the people that they follow because they're leading the way. They're creating that path to make success a reality. I think knowing your purpose is really, really important because without that, it is easy. You become like a piece of sand on the beach. I love to go to the beach. And one of the things I love to watch is I love to see the tide come in. And I love to stand there and just let the waters go back and forth. And sometimes I think life is like that,
mm,
that you're just a piece of sand, a grain of sand on the beach, and life circumstances will just drag you to and fro. If you're not a purposeful, centered, intentional leader, you're going to be like that grain of sand on the beach, going here and there wherever circumstances take you. I think when you know your purpose, it helps to center you, it helps to anchor you, it helps you to know what you stand for and what you don't stand for. And I think when you're transparent with yourself, it's easier to be transparent with others. And when you're
mm,
transparent with others and you can communicate that passion, you can communicate your authenticity, you can communicate your goals, then it's easier for people to follow you. If you've ever been led by someone who you never know what the goal is, or they're hard to follow, or one day it feels like the mission is this, the next day the mission is something else, it's because I believe they're not anchored. They don't have that anchor. When you have that anchor within yourself, it's easier to lead others.
mm. What is your anchor?
Oh, my anchor is very, very transparent. Um, as an African American Asian woman, leadership was something I had to cultivate. Nobody ever said to me, Tina Johnson, you're going to be a leader. No one ever said to me, Tina Johnson, you're going to be a doctor. Like, I'm a first generation doctor. I didn't necessarily have the example of professional women in my life. So my purpose is to help anybody who wants to grow their leadership skills, whether it is an undergraduate, whether it's an educator who has bigger aspirations. I truly believe you can learn to be a leader. I do not believe leaders are born. I think leadership it can be cultivated. I think you can fail forward and learn from leadership mistakes. I've made lots of mistakes when I was a principal. I served as an elementary principal during the pandemic. So today's date of March 13th is very significant for me because that was the day 5 years ago that the pandemic started. And
Wow.
I had to really pivot in my leadership. And I made a lot of mistakes as a leader, but
Mm,
then you do reflection and hopefully you fail forward. Hopefully you learn from the mistakes, you grow from the mistakes, and you say with through reflection, of course, you know what, I did this well, but next time I can serve my folks by doing this a little bit better.
One thing I really love about your anchor is that it's others focused. It's outward. I think a lot of people make one very simple mistake with purpose and with leadership, and that's having a purpose that's rooted in themselves. Or in leadership, being a leader to put a light on yourself and not to make future leaders out of the people you're following. That's what I really love about your anchor,
Aw.
is because you want to help people become leaders. You want to use your leadership to multiply leaders.
Aw, that's such a wonderful compliment. It's making me teary eyed because I love servant leadership. Leadership is not about the leader. In fact, it's about, like I started off, the impact. And a good leader has a succession plan. A good leader grows other leaders. A good leader should seek to share knowledge, to replicate any greatness. And that's by being open and saying, okay, this is where I made a misstep. And when you become a leader, you might want to consider my experience. So I really do. I've had great examples. Once I stepped into leadership, I was exposed to many people who actively believed in servant leadership. And what I thought leadership was when I stepped into it to what I realize it is now, it's not what it's about helping and serving and making an impact just as much behind the scenes as it is in front.
And I know you said your leadership perspective changed from when you first entered leadership to now. What was your perspective on leadership when you first tried to enter the field?
Oh, as an early leader, I thought it was about setting the path by way of communication. Tell you this is what we're going to do and give you the autonomy to do it. Or I send an email and say, hey, this is the direction we're going. That's not the way of leadership. I think what I learned, particularly during the pandemic, Abraham Lincoln used a strategy called management by walking around. And what that is talking to the people that you're serving. And this is a strategy he used to unite the North and South. You know, I talked about this in
I
class.
do remember this from
But he
class.
used this it's now considered an executive strategy. And the beauty of it is you find out people's pain points. So when you're trying to make an impact, you talk to the people who are closest to the problem and you co-collaborate. You enter into thought partnerships. And together you brainstorm and co-create solutions for improved performance. When I started off, I thought it was me alone, that it was my charge to figure out what the resources were, what's the best path to go. So, can I tell you how liberating it is to know as a leader, you don't have to have all the answers, but you lead the way by talking to the people closest to the problem, asking people, well, what do you think? You've got expertise in this. And you create a solution. And by doing so, you're getting multiple perspectives and you're increasing your consensus with whatever you decide to do. So I thought it was me solo versus me amongst a group.
When I hear management by walking around, being at HPU, one of the first people that come to mind is Dr. Cubane,
Yes.
because he is always out and about. You'll see
Yes.
him at the cafeteria.
Yes.
You'll see him in an academic building. The other day I saw him at Chick-fil-A, just eating Chick-fil-A at a
Right.
table in the open, people talking to him.
Right.
But just think about how different this university would be if he locked himself in his office
Right.
and
Exactly.
led from Roberts Hall and Roberts Hall alone.
So see, you understand that's evolution, right?
Yes.
And so I'm curious to see what my perspective will be in 5 more
Yeah.
years.
There's power in presence,
Right.
being available, being approachable, because followers want a leader that they can go to,
Right.
not just a leader who assigns and delegates
I
tasks.
like how you said that. I'm going to write that down, Alex. Power and presence.
There's power in presence.
Right. Sounds
So
like a book title.
maybe
Alex, sounds like a book
maybe
title.
one day I'll write a book about that. Power
Power
of
and presence.
presence. We'll see.
Powerful, purposeful presence. The three
The three
P's.
P's. That's awesome. Before we go any further into leadership, I am a little bit curious where you got all your leadership experience and education from. So, did you go through leadership coaching? Did you have a leadership major or minor? I know you're a Dr. Johnson. What is your doctorates in? Just stuff
Yes.
like that. How'd you get your information?
Right. I am a doctor in educational leadership.
Okay.
Right now, I have 5 certifications in leadership. I serve as an executive coach, leadership coach on the side. But if I'm very honest with you, my leadership experiences came just from my home life. My
Mm.
mother being Japanese, my father being a military man. My mother's English was very broken. So when my father would go on tour, I was the oldest. So that meant that I was transcribing, translating. I remember one particular time we traveled a lot from between Jacksonville, North Carolina, and Okinawa, Japan. And so my mother couldn't read English. So we were in a airport situation, and as a second grader, I led my mom and my sister. We missed a flight. I had a baby sister, so I remember talking to the flight agents about how to rebook, how to get us into a hotel that night, how to get us transportation. So I think my early leadership skills and advocacy skills came from being in my family unit. As I got older, college provided me with I pledged to sorority, Delta Sigma Theta. It was a great experience for me to have. I was the president of the chapter. That gave me great experiences. So I think life. I then served as an orientation director. And I think the reason I was so eager to lead was because I always thought I could make a difference.
Mm.
Like if I'm ever in a situation where I'm not sure if I can make a difference, then I'm hesitant to put myself out there. But if I feel like I can make an impact, if I can add value, if I can be of assistance, then I typically find myself saying, I'll do it, I'll help. And so I think definitely now as an adult, leadership comes from, I've had the great pleasure of working with wonderful people who trust me, even this university, who trust me with 533 students. And it's all about your ethos, the spirit in which you seek to serve and to
Mm.
help people. I have really been blessed to be able to do so. So I think it's a culmination of life experiences, formalized experiences, and all of that bring rich opportunities to learn and grow, make mistakes, and start to cycle all over again.
So it's just a little bit of everything, a little bit of
Hmm.
learning, a little bit of
And I
living.
love to read. I love to read. So right now I am reading 3 different books on leadership. And I
Wow.
love it. I'm reading a book on positive leadership, High Road Leadership by John Maxwell, and this new book called Lean In for Women in Leadership. So I
Mm.
read a little bit every day. Try to keep yourself relevant. Try to avail yourself. I love to listen to podcasts. Mel Robbins has a great podcast I'm listening to.
Mm.
She wrote the book called Let Them. So I think your leadership style also has to match the situation. You never use the same set of skills for every situation.
Yeah.
But one thing that always stands the test of time and stands the test of whatever situation you're faced in is the ability to listen,
Mm.
to find out what people's pain points are, and then to listen, empathize, and try to make an impact from there. But always listening and questioning, well, what can we do? How can I help? What's needed? What have I not considered that I should consider?
Mm.
So giving people the space and the autonomy to share their experiences before rendering a decision. Because I can't be the expert of all things.
Yeah.
So it's always important to listen to those who you're leading so that you're leading them in a way that's honorable, meaningful, and
Mm.
impactful to the people that you are seeking to serve.
Well, first, I know you said you like listening to podcasts. I'm pretty sure there's a good one called In Pursuit of Purpose
I
out there.
heard about that.
So,
I heard this guy is going to write a book called Powerful, Passionate Purpose. I heard he's amazing.
uh, but the other thing I want to talk about is listening. It's a thing a lot of people aren't very good at because it goes back to that idea of when we were talking about your anchor and purpose and leadership, how it's others focused, it's outwards. It's not about you, it's about other people. Listening makes it about other people. Talking makes it about you,
Right.
which is everybody's natural instinct. It's something I'm definitely working on.
Right.
A lot of times I find myself interrupting people just naturally. I don't even want to. And then they say something, and then I'm like, I am so sorry. Like, please continue. But it's hard to listen. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to really sit down and not just hear what somebody's saying, but really listen. Because there's a difference between hearing and listening.
Right.
For the longest time, something I struggled with, especially in situations like this, where I'm interviewing or talking to somebody of importance, I would hear what they were saying to me, but the whole time I was thinking about what I'm going to say next.
Right.
Have you ever had that happen?
Oh, yeah.
I'm
I
just
wish my
waiting.
husband was here because my husband would be like, yeah, she can relate. Um, Alex, I'm very much like you. I can totally connect. And I think, like you, I'm working on being in the moment
Mm,
and quieting my inner self to really be in the moment. So I love practicing mindfulness. Um, when I am really, really, really happy, I force myself to be in the moment.
mm,
So I naturally do that. Like if I'm on a vacation or I'm eating a good meal or doing something with family, I try to be in the moment. So that skill I'm trying to transfer over
mm,
into my communications. A lot of time it's just slowing that brain, slowing your thoughts down to say, I want to honor this person by giving
yeah.
them my time. But I struggle with that because when you're a servant leader, you want to seek to serve people. And if you think you know the answer, you want to say, hey, I can help you. And sometimes it can be too premature and it
Mm,
could be seen as instead of you trying to serve, that you know all the answers. And we really don't. My faith life has also taught me that there is power in listening and being slow to speak. And so I think we all can strive for that in this world where you turn on the news and you turn on the radio, you look at social media, everybody has something to say, but everyone can't
mm.
listen. So I think it's a skill. And so I'm like you, I'm on that same path. I'm still trying to get better myself.
Well, we'll work on it every single day
Right,
because
right.
never going to be perfect,
No, sir.
but definitely a very important tool that takes intentionality
Yes.
because our natural mode is to zone out, to
Right.
talk first. So it
Right.
really takes a intentional, purposeful
Yes.
decision to say,
Yes.
I'm going to sit here and listen to what you have to say. And I'll respond and give you feedback after I have all the information. This
Right.
is about you.
It's hard to do as a leader, especially if there is a critique about your leadership.
Mm,
It's hard because the natural inclination is to defend, but or if there's a misunderstanding, you want to
yes.
defend, you want to protect. And so it's really hard to do when there's a misunderstanding.
It's a really good point because the last thing I wanted to talk to you about, this is not only something that will help everybody that's listening, but
Right.
something that will help me. Something that I am actively currently battling with.
Okay.
So I'm not going to name any names.
Don't do
I'm
that.
not going to name even the organization because I
Okay.
don't want anybody to get an idea of who I'm talking about.
Wonderful.
But I am part of an organization,
Hmm.
and I am on that organization's leadership team.
Okay.
It's a small group of us. It's about 5 of us. And there is one particular person on there
Mm-hmm.
who has not a bad style of leadership, but a very opposite style than the other 4 of us.
Okay.
And that has created a lot of conflict.
Okay.
Conflict that we don't want, conflict that we definitely don't need. It's done nothing but harm team morale, hard, worsen team morale, worsen our culture, our respect for each other. So how can anybody listening work through the struggle
Right.
of leading with other people that have opposite personalities, opposite leadership
Right.
styles,
Right.
people that you don't just naturally connect with?
Wonderful question. One of my master's degree is in conflict resolution. And so it's my belief after studying conflict is conflict not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Conflict truly is an opportunity to develop a new normal.
Mm.
And so this conflict provides your team with an opportunity to do what I call name and claim. So whenever there is a conflict, it may be a conflict for the 4 of you, may not be a conflict for the other person who's on
Mm-hmm.
the receiving, who's on that other side, if
Right.
I am visualizing this correctly. But I would do what's called name and claim, which is to say, you can say, um, Mr. Smith, this is how I am feeling when this happens. Or you can use a strategy called SBI, situation, behavior, impact. It's important for you to talk about how you're feeling, your particular perceptions about the matter, to give the other person another understanding of how they're showing up in this situation. So when you name and claim your feelings, if you say, all right, Mr. Smith, when we're in meetings, situation, when we're in our team meetings, and you say or do, so you want to state a fact, not a perception, but when you do an observable fact, whatever the observable thing they're doing, this is how it impacts me. Then you can go back to your feelings. It impacts me because it makes me feel like we are not aligned.
Mm.
It makes me feel that we're not going to be able to achieve our goals. It makes me feel disappointed that we're not all going in the same way.
Yeah.
But I think until you have that brave conversation with the other person, it's never going to get better. So when you put issue out on the table and you give them an opportunity to respond, then I found typically conflicts get messier before you get to resolution.
Mm.
So there might be some uncomfortability about
Yeah.
saying your feelings, but at least you get it out there and you have that awareness gives you an opportunity to get better. But if they never know, it'll never get resolved.
Yeah.
And you speak for yourself, not for the other 4, the other 3, but you
Mm.
always say, this is how I feel. This in this situation,
Mm.
this specific behavior, this is how it impacts me. And because if you come to me and you tell me the 4 of y'all are mad because this situation, this behavior impact, I'm going to be in defense. But if you come to me one-to-one and say, this is how it's made me feel, I am willing to say, well, let's explore that. I want to know, why do you feel like that?
So it allows for the leader to be more intentional in trying to resolve what's going on because they don't feel like they're being attacked by everybody in their
Right,
group.
right. And as a leader, you should expect resistance.
Mm.
Nobody's ever going to be at the same place in their followership of your leader.
Right.
On your leadership team, you should expect that everybody's not going to be at the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
So an effective leader will make sure you're doing feedback loops. It's that management by walking around, right? It's a feedback loops. How are you doing? Do you understand? How do you feel about what we're trying to do? I kind of noticed you were a little bit, I didn't get as many, in that team meeting, I didn't get as much feedback as you normally give. And it made me wonder, are you okay? I just want to do a check in. And they might say, you know what, Alex, I don't like that we're doing da 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 da. Then you say, okay, well, talk to me about that. What do you see that I'm not seeing? So instead of being, it's so easy to get your defenses up. It's so easy to be offended, especially when you're vulnerable and you share an idea. But iron sharpens iron, and you learn and you can get a better product with more eyes and more thoughts, more people's thoughts and opinions. So you don't ever want to put yourself in a position where you're the solo person trying to influence. If you can get more of a team and that thought partnership and including people who don't think like you. When you work with if you're building, if a leader is to build a great effective team, you need people who don't think like you. If everybody thought like Tina, then we'd be missing out on a whole lot of inspiration. Like, I am very people focused and outcome focused, but I'm not as inspiration driven. So I need people on my team who are more inspiration driven. They have that gut feeling, and I'm a little bit more type A. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm planning to do. People who are inspiration driven will wake up and be like, I got an idea. I need people like that working with me. I don't need people who have the same skill sets with me. So you want you want divergence in ability and perspective, because we're not all the same. And the more talents and the more perspectives you get, the better you can impact whatever you're trying to work towards.
So if everybody thought the same way, that group would probably be really good
It's
at
some
one or two
things,
things.
right? Limited.
But if everybody thought differently, then that group would be very exceptional
Right.
in a lot of different things.
And so in that's where you're going to have the rub of potential conflicts, because you want that divergent opinion, but you have to manage how they show up, how it shows up,
Yeah.
and create group norms for equity of voice.
Yeah.
So anytime I'm on a team, I'm like, okay, this is how we're going to work together. This is how we're going to have equity of voice. Not the same person's going to talk all the time. Because if you've ever been in a group where the same person talks and everyone else shuts down because they know nothing is going to be required of them.
They don't feel like they have any influence.
You better talk that talk, Alex. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you for that advice. It's definitely something that I will take back to my team, hope to resolve some of the stuff going on. I'm in a leadership class right now, and I think we might have briefly gone over it in our class. If you didn't know, I had Dr. Johnson last fall for
was
Intro to
wonderful.
Leadership Theories.
Yes.
But in the beginning of the year, this specific team, we were in the forming stage. Now we're in the storming.
Yes, you remember
So
that.
now it's time
Yes.
to get to norming
Yes.
so we can start performing.
Alex, you make my heart happy. That's good. Great team development theory. That's awesome.
As we wrap up, two more quick things.
Yes.
First, speed run. I have 3 sentences
Okay.
that are incomplete at the end.
Okay.
So if you could just fill in the blank with what you think would best fit these.
Okay.
The first step to leadership is
Self-awareness.
great leaders need,
Faith.
and a common misconception about leadership is.
That it's easy.
What do you, can you elaborate just a little bit on that? Because obviously it is not easy to lead people.
I think I want to go back to, again, March 13th, 2020, when as a school leader, I had to pivot. I had a building of 600 students, 70 staff. And it was one of the hardest times because I felt personally responsible for the health of my staff and the students that I served. And so a lot of times when you are implementing change in or out of the pandemic, people don't like change. People like consistency and they like structure, even if the change is a necessary change. So there were a lot of misunderstandings about the need for us to change the way that we educated. There's a lot of misunderstandings when you serve as a leader, and you can't always go around and clear it up with folks.
Mm.
If I spent my day going around clearing up misconceptions, that would be time wasted when I can be instead focusing on the North Star. So you have to get comfortable with people potentially misunderstanding
Mm.
the goal and the intent, even as clear as you try to be with your communication, even when you try to be transparent, you try to be authentic. People might not like you because you have brown hair and you're the leader.
Mm.
People might not like you because you instituted something that was a requirement, but you were the face. You represent the change, you represent the institution, you represent the team, and it really is not personal to you, but you represent, you embody whatever organization you're working for. So you have to develop thick skin and continue to serve despite when people throw arrows, despite when people misunderstand what you're trying to do. And that can be a lonely place.
Mm.
It can be very lonely. It's not glamorous at all by any means.
So it takes not being overly sensitive. It takes not taking everything personally.
Right?
It takes tough skin
Right.
because it's not easy, but it is worth it.
It is definitely worth it. It takes grit. And that means for me, what gets me through those times is remembering that purpose.
Yeah.
If you know your purpose, right? So I am a Christian. And so I always use Jesus as my ultimate model of the best leader.
Mm.
And even he, the perfect person, was misunderstood. Even he was figuratively and literally just reputation torn apart, physically just damaged to the point where he experienced death. So if he, the perfect leader, experienced that, then who am I not to expect the same on a lesser scale, of course.
Mm.
So every leader has battle scars. Every leader has a battle scar, multiple battle scars by the people that they seek to serve. And that's part of the leadership walk. So if you're not clear on your purpose, when those times come, you'll be like that, back to that sand on the beach. You'll just be here and there and everywhere, and you lose your focus, and then the organization loses its focus. So you've got to be anchored in your own purpose.
Yeah. Last question here. Actually, I lied. I have two more quick
Okay,
ones.
it's
I know I
okay.
keep throwing
It's
them at
okay,
you,
it's
but I
okay.
keep coming up with
It's
them.
okay.
I know you do leadership coaching. I know you have had lots of certifications and degrees in leadership. There are people out there who really want to develop their leadership skills, but might not have the opportunities to be in school right now, or might not have the money to invest in leadership coaching.
Right.
So, without spoiling too much information that you use to make a living, if you had to give the people listening and watching a super quick crash course on how they can start developing their leadership skills, what would you say?
Wow. I would say the first thing would be know your purpose, know what's passionate for you. The second thing would be volunteer to lead an effort that's connected to that purpose. Just volunteer. Volunteer to lead something. If you're in Girl
Mm.
Scouts, Boy Scouts, something after school, something here at a university level, something at your church, volunteer. And when you're in that position, ask the people that you serve what their ideas are for improvement, what is working and what's not working, and try to make a change for the betterment of the greater good.
Mm.
So leadership is not a title. Leadership is work. It's about the work that you're doing.
Mm.
So try to do the work of serving others and using your influence, your ability to get donations, your ability to bring people in, your ability to help whatever the goal is. Use the gifts that you have towards the organization's purpose. All leaders are not leaders in title.
Mm.
You can be a leader and be in middle management. You can be a leader. I had students in my building who were leaders when I was an elementary principal. Young people can lead. You don't have to have the formal title to be influential. So whatever you are planted, there's this phrase that says wherever you are planted, blossom. Wherever you are
Mm,
in your life, look to see where you can make a difference
yeah.
and use your gifts and your influence to make that difference. That's leadership.
Yeah. Now, this is actually the final question.
Okay.
And this is a question that I ask almost everybody on the
Mhm.
podcast. This is the in pursuit of purpose question.
Okay.
Without saying what you do, who is Dr. Tina Johnson and what is your purpose?
Oh, without saying what I do. I'm a wife of 30 years. I'm a grandma. I'm a mom of two, a grandma of one, mom of two. And my purpose is to help as much as I can, as many as I can, for as long as I can.
Wow,
That's my purpose. That's
that's
about to make me
incredible.
tear up. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's it.
Guys, you have a purpose and you can be a leader because leadership is not a title, it's influence.
Yes.
It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. Dr. Johnson, thank you so much for
He's the
joining me
best
today.
student. He's the best
Oh,
student.
stop. Oh, stop.
Good
Thank you
job.
so much.